Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are doing something that I honestly think is going to change the way you look at your own kitchen.
Oh, I agree.
Usually we're here breaking down, a tech giant's quarterly earnings, or we're digging into the ethics of AI, or maybe we're looking at a historical mystery. But
Today, it's all about porridge.
today we are looking at a bowl of porridge.
It sounds a little humble when you put it that way. Just a bowl of porridge.
It does, doesn't it? But this is not the oatmeal you make in the microwave on a Tuesday morning.
Right.
We are looking at a set of documents, specifically a flavor balance experiment report and a seasoning philosophy breakdown that describes something called deep sea umami porridge.
Right.
And I have to start with the hook that grabbed me immediately when I opened these files. It's a dare.
It's absolutely a culinary dare. It's a challenge.
Imagine I invite you over for dinner. I tell you I've been working on a special soup, and then I show you the ingredients on the counter.
Okay, I'm listening.
I have a tin of deep sea sardines, the kind that come in oil and smell distinctly metallic and, well, fishy the second you crack the lid.
A very specific smell. We all know it.
Then, next to that, I have a pile of enoki mushrooms, which, let's be honest, have a very particular smell of their own.
They smell like wet dirt or a damp basement. It's not an appetizing smell on its own.
Exactly. Muddy, earthy.
Yeah.
And then, just to really round out the disaster profile, I'm holding a bottle of brown rice vinegar, and I tell you I'm going to pour a significant amount of this pungent acid right into the boiling pot.
If I didn't know the science behind it, I'd probably say you were trying to ruin the food, not cook it. I'd ask for a takeout menu.
Right. It sounds like a sensory nightmare. You're picturing a clash of strong, potentially offensive flavors. Fishy amines, fungal dampness, sharp sour vinegar.
It's just a mess in a bowl.
But the documents we're analyzing today claim that this specific combination, when processed with a very specific chemical logic, creates something that isn't just edible.
Not by a long shot.
They claim it is creamy, they claim it is naturally sweet, and most shockingly, they claim it is completely devoid of fishiness or sourness.
Alchemy in a bowl. That's the phrase the report uses. And it's not hyperbole. It's chemistry.
And that is our mission today. We aren't here to just read a recipe. I mean, if you want a recipe, you can buy a cookbook.
Right. This is about the why.
We are here to unpack the molecular magic happening in this pot. We're talking about chemistry, thermodynamics, and even the physiology of how our stomachs register satiety.
This is really about the logic of flavor correction. It's about how you take ingredients that are essentially antagonists, fighting each other in the bowl, and you force them into a resolution.
I love that framing. Conflict and resolution. Usually when we cook, we pick friends. Tomatoes and basil.
They're friends.
Steak and potatoes.
Best buddies.
But this dish starts a war in the pot and then negotiates a peace treaty using science.
It really does.
Sure.
And to understand that treaty, we have to look at seasoning differently. We usually think of seasoning as, decoration, a sprinkle of parsley to make it look nice.
Or just adding flavor on top of other flavors.
Exactly. But the source material treats seasoning as flavor correction logic.
Which sounds more like audio engineering than cooking.
It is engineering. We're going to talk about noise cancellation for your tongue.
Which is a fascinating application of black pepper that I had never considered.
We also have the mystery of the vanishing acid.
The vinegar paradox, that one really blew my mind.
And we have the risotto effect, which brings in some fascinating physics about heat, fat, and emulsions.
So let's dive in. Let's start where any good story starts, with the villains, or, in this case, the antagonists in our pot.
Right. If we look at the source material, it explicitly lays out the flavor battlefield. This dish isn't starting from a place of harmony. It's starting with difficult, complex ingredients.
Let's name and shame them. First up, we have the sardines.
Deep sea fish. Now, from a nutritional standpoint, we all know they are heroes. They are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, calcium, protein. They're amazing for you.
A superfood, basically.
But flavor-wise, they are difficult. The source mentions a metallic odor.
Yeah, that tinny smell. Is that actually from the metal can, or is that the fish itself? I've always wondered that.
That's a great question. It's mostly the fish. It comes down to the biochemistry of deep-sea creatures. To survive that pressure and cold, their cells contain high levels of specific amines to regulate osmosis.
Okay, so it's a survival mechanism.
It is. But when those fish are caught and processed, those compounds break down into things like trimethylamine.
TMA.
TMA, exactly. Trimethylene is that volatile compound that your brain registers as rotting fish or low tide.
Yeah.
It is sharp, it is pungent, and it is incredibly volatile, meaning it flies right into your nose the second it's exposed to air.
Okay, so we have a volatile metallic amine cloud. That's antagonist number 1.
A very aggressive one.
Then we add enoki mushrooms. Now, I love mushrooms, but the source flags these as having a distinct earthy smell.
Earthy is the polite culinary term. The chemical culprit there is usually geosmin.
Geosmin, I've heard that word before. That's the rain smell, right? When it rains after a dry spell.
It is. You know that distinct scent when rain hits dry soil? That's petrichor. And the primary chemical that creates that smell is geosmin. It's produced by bacteria in the dirt.
And humans are super sensitive to it, I remember reading.
Incredibly sensitive. We can detect it at concentrations of parts per trillion. It's one of the things we're best at smelling.
Why? Why are we so good at smelling dirt?
The leading theory is evolutionary survival. Our ancestors could smell it from miles away, which meant they could find water in a drought.
That makes sense. But it's a problem in the kitchen.
It's a huge problem. In a delicate porridge, you don't want to be eating muddy water. Geosmin gives food a damp, basement-like quality. It tastes musty, or even a bit like mold.
So we have metallic fish amines, and we have musty basement fungi. What a combo. And then the base is red rice.
Which adds a textural conflict. We generally want porridge or congee to be smooth, silky, comforting, like a warm hug in a bowl.
Right.
But red rice has a bran layer. It's rough, it's fibrous, it's chewy. It interrupts that desired smoothness. It fights against the creaminess you're trying to achieve.
So if you just threw these things in a pot of boiling water, which is what I think most people do when they try to eat healthy, you'd end up with a rough, muddy, fishy soup.
A disaster. You'd eat it because you know it's good for you, but you wouldn't enjoy it. You'd be holding your nose.
But the report says the goal here is conflict and resolution. It's like being an audio engineer. You have a recording with a ton of static, feedback, and background noise.
A really messy track.
You can't just turn up the volume that just makes the static louder. You have to clean the track first. You have to EQ it.
That is the perfect analogy. And that leads us directly to the first major piece of chemistry in this deep dive. Black pepper.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because usually when I use black pepper, I'm just thinking, I want this to be a little spicy, or maybe I just do it out of habit because I see the shaker on the table.
It's almost an automatic gesture.
Exactly. But the source material treats black pepper like a surgical instrument.
It really does. The document uses the term flavor correction logic. It specifically says that in this dish, black pepper is not there for heat. It's not there for its own flavor even.
So what's it for?
It is acting as a precision silencer.
A silencer, like a noise-canceling headphone.
Exactly. Think about how active noise-canceling headphones work. They have a microphone that listens to the outside noise, the hum of an airplane engine, and then the speaker produces a sound wave that is the inverse of that noise.
The anti-noise.
The anti-noise. They effectively cancel each other out, creating silence so you can hear your music.
Yeah.
The source claims that the piperine in black pepper does something similar for our taste receptors regarding specific off notes.
Piperine is the active compound in pepper, right? That's what makes it spicy.
Correct. Piperine is what gives pepper its pungency. But chemically, it interacts with the trigeminal nerve. That's the nerve responsible for sensation, pain, and temperature in your mouth.
So it's not just taste buds.
It's more of a physical sensation. By stimulating this nerve, it creates a sensory distraction, or a mask, that effectively suppresses the perception of other volatile compounds.
It's jamming the radar.
It is jamming the radar. It's a bit like shouting to drown out a whisper. The piperine signal is so unique that it makes it harder for your brain to process the more subtle, unpleasant signals.
And the experiment report highlights 2 specific targets for this pepper strike.
It does. It's very targeted.
Let me guess. The mud and the fish.
Spot on. Target number 1, geosmin. That earthy, muddy smell from the enoki mushrooms. The piperine creates a sensory mask that essentially deletes that muddy signal before your brain fully registers it as unpleasant.
So it filters out the dirt taste. It's like putting a filter on the microphone.
A very effective one. And target number 2, the TMA from the sardines. That residual fishy odor. The pepper suppresses that metallic volatility.
How does it do that? Is it a chemical reaction?
It's less of a direct chemical reaction and more about sensory competition.
Yeah.
Because the piperine sensation is louder and occupies the receptors, the volatile amines from the fish struggle to compete for your brain's attention.
Wow, this is wild. So the source says the result is akin to removing background static.
Yes, and here's the key, and this ties back to the umami focus of this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
Once you remove the static, the mud, and the fishiness, what's left?
The music, the actual flavor of the
The
ingredients.
umami, the pure, savory essence of the fish and the mushroom. You see, mushrooms are high in glutamates, fish are high in inosinates.
And when those two get together, it's a party.
It's a massive synergy of umami. The savory flavor multiplies. But if that synergy is buried under mud and metal, you can't taste it. The off notes are too distracting.
So by silencing the interference with pepper, the pure umami is allowed to emerge.
It comes to the forefront. It becomes the star of the show, which is what it was supposed to be all along.
That changes how I look at my pepper grinder. I always thought of it as adding a flavor on top of the food, making a steak more peppery.
Additive seasoning.
But here, it's acting as a chemical catalyst that changes the baseline of the food.
It's subtractive seasoning. You're adding something to take something else away.
Okay, so we've silenced the noise, the static is gone, the track is clean, but we still have another potential disaster in the pot. We have vinegar.
Brown rice vinegar, to be specific, which is a little less harsh than white vinegar, but it's still very much an acid.
Right, and the recipe calls for a healthy pour. I mean, not just a splash. But the source refers to this phenomenon as the vanishing acidity.
This is one of my favorite parts of food chemistry because it feels like a magic trick. It completely defies your expectations.
Explain this to me, because if I pour vinegar into my soup tastes sour. That's just how vinegar works. It's acetic acid.
It is.
But the report says the final dish has no sourness. Where does the acid go? Does it just boil off?
Some of the aromatic volatility boils off, but the acid itself doesn't just disappear into thin air. It transforms. It's all about the buffer effect.
The buffer effect sounds like computer science, like video buffering.
It's pure chemistry. Look at the other ingredients in the bowl. We have eggs. The recipe calls for 3 of them.
Which is a lot of egg.
A lot. We have the sardines, and we have cheese, which we'll get to later. What do all of those have in common?
Protein.
High protein and fats, but the protein is the key here. Chemically, proteins are made of long chains of amino acids. These molecules are amazing natural buffers.
What does buffer mean in a chemical sense?
It means they can absorb and neutralize acids or bases without a significant change in the overall pH. Think of them as a chemical sponge. When you introduce a strong acid like the acetic acid in vinegar into a high-protein environment, specifically under heat,
The proteins react.
they react. The amino groups in the proteins bind to the hydrogen ions from the acid. They essentially catch them. They absorb the blow.
So the protein molecules are catching the acid molecules, like a catcher's mitt.
That's a great way to think about it. They neutralize the sharp, biting acidity that usually makes your mouth pucker. The protein takes the hit, so your tongue doesn't have to.
So the protein is a shield.
It is a shield. But it's not just about neutralization. This is the really cool part. The source mentions a transformation. When that acid is buffered by the protein, it doesn't just become neutral water. It converts into a source that drives umami.
Drives umami. That sounds like a marketing slogan from a sauce company. What does it actually mean?
It means it amplifies the savory signal. Even when buffered, the residual properties of the acid change the electrical charge of the food environment. It stimulates salivation.
So it makes your mouth water.
And when you salivate, your taste buds become more receptive. The remaining non-sour properties of the acid work to wake up your palate and make the savory notes of the egg and fish pop. It creates depth and a more complex, mouth-filling sensation.
So it's an equation. Acid plus protein equals umami minus sourness.
Precisely. This is why we add a squeeze of lime to pad thai, or why the French put red wine in a beef bourguignon.
Yeah.
It's not to make it sour, it's to make the meat taste meaty. The acid brightens everything up.
But the vinegar has a second job in this pot, according to the source. It's not just there to be buffered, it's physically interacting with the sardines.
Yes, this is a physical change, not just a flavor one. The source notes it softens trace minerals.
Right. Sardines, especially small deep-sea ones, have tiny edible bones and a mineral-rich structure.
And those can be gritty or have a slightly chalky texture sometimes. The acetic acid in the vinegar is very effective at breaking down those calcium structures. It dissolves the bonds in the connective tissue.
Like a marinade.
Exactly like a marinade. But it's supercharged by the heat. It works much faster in the hot liquid. By softening the fish, it releases what the source calls a natural sweetness. that would otherwise be locked away in the dense protein and bone structure.
So we're getting sweetness from a fish. I don't usually associate fish with sweetness.
You'd be surprised. Deep-sea fish actually have a lot of natural sweetness from amino acids like glycine, but it's often hidden behind the tough texture or that fishy smell we talk about.
So the vinegar unlocks the texture and the pepper removes the smell?
And suddenly, you taste the sweetness of the ocean, not the funk of the harbor.
That is a beautiful way to put it. Flavor integration. It's not a sour soup. It's a unified, savory, sweet experience, all chemically engineered.
And that really brings us to the so what of this section. It challenges the common idea that acid is just for sourness. Acid is a tool. It's a tool to modify protein and unlock hidden flavors.
Okay, so we've fixed the flavor, we've canceled the noise with pepper, and we've transformed the acid with protein. The battlefield is quiet. But we still have that textural problem, the rough red rice.
The textural antagonist.
Right. This is where we move from chemistry to physics. Specifically, the source calls it thermal emulsification.
And this is the secret to that creamy, luxurious mouthfeel.
The source compares the final texture to Italian risotto. Smooth, slippery, creamy, which is a very high bar.
A very high bar.
But this is a porridge made with water, not a slow-stirred rice dish full of butter and starch from arborio rice. How do they achieve that?
The secret weapon here is cheese. But, this is critical, the report emphasizes this over and over. It's not just that they use cheese, it's how and when they use it.
The source is very specific about this. It says post-cooking residual heat, not during cooking.
This is the part where most home cooks fail. If you've ever made mac and cheese from scratch and it ended up grainy or greasy, this is why. The report explicitly warns against adding the cheese while the porridge is boiling.
Why? What happens if I throw cheese into boiling water?
You break the emulsion. Cheese is a complex, beautiful structure of fat, protein, and water, all held in a delicate balance. If you hit it with 100 degrees Celsius heat boiling, the proteins seize up.
What do you mean, seize up?
They tighten like a fist. They go from being a flexible network to a tight, rubbery ball.
Huh?
And when they tighten, they squeeze out the fat.
The oil slick? We've all seen it. The grease that floats on top of a bad cheese sauce?
The oil separates and floats to the top. The protein becomes stringy, rubbery lumps. You end up with a greasy, clumpy mess instead of the smooth, integrated sauce.
Gross.
But if you turn off the heat and let the porridge cool down just slightly to that warm phase, maybe 80 or 85 degrees Celsius, and then you stir in the frozen cheese.
Wait, why frozen? That seems counterintuitive. I think you'd want it at room temp so it melts faster.
It does seem odd, but it's a brilliant bit of physics. The frozen cheese acts as a temperature regulator. It rapidly cools the liquid immediately around it as it melts, ensuring the melting process is gradual and gentle.
Ah, so it prevents that sudden heat shock to the proteins.
Exactly. It allows the fats and proteins in the cheese to slowly relax and integrate with the starch water from the rice without breaking. It creates a stable emulsion.
So it's not a sauce on the rice, it becomes part of the liquid itself.
Exactly. It becomes a uniform, creamy sauce that coats every single grain of pearl rice and red rice.
So that rough bran on the red rice gets coated in this cheese emulsion.
It lubricates the grain. It smooths over the rough edges. You get the nutritional benefit of the red rice, the fiber, the vitamins, but the mouthfeel of a creamy, decadent risotto.
That's genius. And the source mentions that using residual heat preserves nutrients.
Yes, that's another benefit. High heat can denature certain vitamins and destroy beneficial bacteria or enzymes in some cheeses. By using the cool-down heat, you're treating the ingredient with more respect, preserving more of its nutritional profile.
So you're essentially eating raw cheese that has just been gently softened into a liquid state.
That's a great way to describe it. It maintains its integrity.
Speaking of nutrition, the source calls this combination of fats a nutritional density matrix. That sounds intense. Very sci-fi.
It's a fancy way of saying they've stacked different types of beneficial fats to work together synergistically. It's not just one fat source, it's a calculated blend.
Let's break down that matrix. What's in the stack?
First, you start with the sardines. That's your omega-3 fatty acids. These are the long-chain fatty acids, EPA and DHA, which are crucial for brain health and reducing inflammation.
The all-star fat. Then the recipe includes organic olive oil.
That's your monounsaturated fat. Also fantastic, very well known for being great for heart health.
And finally, the cheese, which I think people usually just write off as bad saturated fat.
Well, cheese provides saturated fats, yes, but also MVTs, medium-chain triglycerides, and short-chain fatty acids, depending on the type of cheese.
And what's special about those?
These are metabolized differently. The body can burn them for energy very quickly, almost like a carbohydrate, instead of storing them.
So you have a blend of fast-burning fats, slow-burning fats, and structural fats for your brain.
And because they are emulsified into the porridge, they aren't sitting on top like an oil slick. They are delivered in every single bite. It's a highly efficient fuel delivery system.
Which leads us perfectly into the physiology side of things. This deep dive isn't just about taste and texture, it's about how this meal makes you feel. The source has a whole section on satiety management.
Which is just as engineered as the flavor.
And it creates a very specific logic around the number 1,200 milliliters.
That's a huge volume. That's over a liter of food. That's like a big gulp of porridge.
It is a bucket of food. My first thought was that must be 1,000 calories.
Right.
But look at the dry matter content. The source notes it uses only 40 grams of grains.
Wait, 40 grams, that's like a handful, like a side dish portion of rice. How does a handful of rice become 1.2 liters of food?
Hydration, a very high water to dry matter ratio. They are expanding the rice to its maximum potential, cooking it with a huge amount of liquid until it's incredibly soft and voluminous.
So why do this? Why not just eat a compact energy bar with the same calories?
It's about physical satiety. Our stomachs have stress receptors in the lining. One of the primary ways our brain knows we are full is simply by the mechanical distension of the stomach wall.
The physical feeling of being full.
Exactly. If you eat a tiny, calorie-dense bar, your stomach doesn't stretch much. You might have consumed enough calories, but your brain doesn't get that I'm full signal, so you still feel hungry.
So by bulking it up with water, which is now this flavored, savory, nutrient-dense water, you trigger that I'm full signal from the stomach stretching.
Precisely. You get the mechanical satisfaction of a large meal, but without the massive carbohydrate load of eating a huge bowl of dense rice.
But it's not just water, right? Because I've had watery soup before and I'm hungry an hour later, that physical fullness doesn't last.
Correct. That's where the nutritional density matrix comes back in. You have the volume from the water, but you have the satiety signals from the protein and the fats.
The chemical signals.
Yes. You've got the protein from 3 eggs, the sardines, the cheese, and you've got the fats from the sardines, cheese, and olive oil. Protein and fat trigger hormonal satiety signals like leptin and CCK that travel to your brain and say, okay, we have fuel, stop eating.
So it hits you on two fronts. Mechanical stretching from the volume and chemical signaling from the nutrient density.
It's smart engineering. It creates a feeling of abundance and fullness, which is great for appetite control, but without feeling like a restrictive diet meal.
Canned food convenience with high-end seafood nutrition. That's how the source describes it.
And frankly, that's the holy grail of modern eating, isn't it? We want it to be fast, we want it to be cheap and shelf-stable, but we want it to function like a superfood.
It seems like this recipe actually pulls it off. Before we wrap up the analysis, though, we have to talk about the color forecast.
Ah, yes, the visual psychology. Because it could still just be a big bowl of beige mush.
And that matters.
Yeah.
We eat with our eyes first. A beige bowl of mush signals bland or boring to the brain before you even take a bite. This recipe is designed to signal complexity and nutrition.
The source lists a specific palette: white, red, green, silver, and purple.
Let's run through the spectrum. White base.
The porridge itself, the canvas, made from the pearl rice.
Right.
The source suggests bell peppers or carrots, that's your carotenoids. Bright, vibrant.
Green.
Spinach, chlorophyll, it signals freshness, life.
Silver. This one is my favorite.
The sardine skin. That's so interesting, right? Most recipes would have you scrape that off or hide it. They use it as a visual element.
What does silver signal, do you think?
Silver suggests fresh from the sea. It suggests mineral content. It looks valuable.
And purple.
That would be anthocyanins from the plants, or perhaps from the bran of the red rice itself. Darker colors like purple and deep red usually signal antioxidants to our primal brain.
So when you look at the bowl, you aren't just seeing ingredients. You're seeing a data visualization of the nutrition inside.
That's a great way to put it. The colors promise the variety and complexity that the flavor profile actually delivers. It's an honest advertisement for what you're about to eat.
So let's bring this all back together. We started with a bowl of porridge that, on paper, sounded like a mistake, a complete mess.
Metallic fish, earthy, moldy-smelling mushrooms, sour vinegar, a chaos of flavors.
And through chemistry pipe rain noise cancellation, protein buffering of the acid and physics,
The thermal emulsification.
it transforms into something elegant, creamy, and deeply savory.
It really is a lesson in the philosophy of cooking. The expert summary in the source says it best. Seasoning is not a mask.
Right. It says seasoning pepper, vinegar, garlic is not there to hide bad food or spoiled ingredients. It is a tool for contrast.
It allows the high-quality ingredients to shine by removing their inherent chemical noise. We often think, oh, this tastes bland, add salt, or this tastes weird, bury it in hot
We
sauce.
use seasoning to cover things up.
But this approach is different. It's analytical, it's diagnostic, this tastes earthy. Use pepper to target the geosmin so the pure mushroom flavor can come through.
This tastes flat. Use a protein-buffered acid to unlock the natural sweetness and umami that's already there.
It's strategic, it's deliberate, it's cooking with intent.
So here's the question for you, the listener. We've just geeked out on deep sea porridge for the last hour, but how can you apply this flavor correction logic to your Tuesday night dinner?
Think about your spice cabinet. Do you know why you are adding something? Or are you just following a recipe blindly?
Next time you reach for the black pepper, ask yourself, am I trying to make this spicy? Or am I trying to cancel out a muddy flavor in my vegetables or a gamey flavor in meat?
Next time you have a rich, heavy stew that feels flat, don't just reach for salt. Maybe it needs a splash of vinegar or lemon juice to interact with the proteins. Maybe it needs that vanishing acid trick to unlock a new dimension of sweetness.
The source material proves that you can create a high-level seafood experience out of humble, shelf-stable ingredients if you understand the molecules interacting in the pot.
It's alchemy. But it's alchemy anyone can do. It's chemistry in your own kitchen.
Here's a final thought to leave you with. The source mentions that this porridge creates a luxury experience from basic items like canned sardines and frozen cheese. If specific chemical combinations can make a 99-cent tin of sardines taste like fine dining.
Which is an incredible claim.
It is. So if that's true, what other flavor hacks are hiding in our cupboards right now that we're using incorrectly or not at all?
What happens if you mix coffee grounds with a beef rub? Or a tiny bit of vanilla extract with shellfish? Things that sound weird.
Exactly. What other unexpected chemical pairings are out there? What other codes are waiting to be broken in everyday ingredients? We'd love for you to go experiment with your own flavor alchemy and let us know what you discover.
Just maybe warn your family before you start experimenting with the vinegar ratios. Don't go too wild on day one.
Fair point. Start with the porridge. Master the vanish. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.
Stay curious.